In an inhospitable place, a group of men dressed in radiation suits scour the ground, measuring contamination levels. When one of them is surprised by an injured and bloodied man pleading for help, the man hesitates, but approaches, and suddenly, a pickaxe brutally pierces his head. His companions are attacked and decimated by a giant mutant creature. While one of them tries to flee, he is speared by the creature's pickaxe and dragged away. Their bodies are then taken by a pickup truck that disappears into the silent hills. Nearby, there is a house completely isolated from society. Inside the house, a man wakes up startled by some noises and decides to go outside to investigate. He calls out for a woman named Ruby, but gets no response. He then continues walking and spots a sign with a warning prohibiting entry indicating a nuclear testing site. The man reaches the entrance of a mine and continues calling for Ruby. He then says that if it's Jupiter, he'll have a bullet waiting for him. The man then returns home and finds a bag at his doorstep. He starts talking to someone, saying he's out of the business, and to whoever he's speaking to, he states that the person is alone now. The man drags the bag into the house and finds some items. While doing this, he feels a presence passing behind him. He turns around but sees nothing. He continues looking inside the bag until he finds something disgusting in a styrofoam container and then a picture of a couple. The man is soon interrupted by the arrival of someone honking outside. He discovers it's a family traveling across the country consisting of the father Carter and his wife Ethel along with their children Bobby and Brenda. With them is the couple's eldest daughter Lynn, who is accompanied by her husband named Doug and their little daughter baby Catherine. Carter asks the man to fill up the car and change the oil. The man does this and while working asks why they are passing through there. Ethel replies that they are heading to California and wanted to pass through the desert to enjoy the scenery, to which the man retorts that the desert has nothing to appreciate. Brenda finds a pig and thinks it's cute, calling her brother to look, but Bobby is uninterested and decides to go relieve himself. When he wants to do it on a plant, Brenda argues with her brother and points to a nearby bathroom. Even refusing, Bobby eventually goes. While the family chats with the man, we see a pair of legs behind their car that soon runs away. Doug comes out of the trailer and complains because he is out of signal. And meanwhile, in the bathroom, Bobby observes how filthy the place is and, distracted looking ahead, gets startled when he notices someone watching him. Bobby exits the bathroom frustrated, thinking it was his sister Brenda, but she is confused. Ethel asks Carter why they didn't go through Santa Fe as it would be faster. The man, not wanting to get involved, ends up saying that Carter is right for choosing that road. The attendant replies that this is Route 88, which is faster to Route 40, and from there they will reach California more quickly. The conversation flows and Carter ends up revealing that he is a former police officer and is now starting a security company. The man finished the job and one of the family's dogs ends up entering the store. Brenda soon follows the animal inside the establishment and calls it by name, but the dog does not respond. She overhears some noises and decides to go deeper into the property. She soon finds the dog barking at a window, and as she turns around, the station attendant suddenly appears, frightening her, and she immediately leaves. The man then looks at the bag suspiciously and runs outside, informing Carter that there is a shortcut to reach the highway faster, saying it's after an old fence, turning right, and the family leaves. They follow the indicated path with the parents excited, while Brenda complains about the trip. Lynn asks everyone to calm down and enjoy the ride peacefully. In the trailer, Bobby is talking to Doug and reveals he's happy he came, as the trip would be boring without his presence. Bobby tries to fix the air conditioning. Doug comments that he has tried and couldn't, but Bobby solves the problem in a few seconds by discovering that the cable was just disconnected. The family approaches the location mentioned by the man, and Ethel searches the map, but Lynn remembers that road didn't appear on the maps. During the conversation, they don't even realize that a spike strip with several nails emerges on the road and flats the car's tires. Carter loses control and crashes the vehicle against a rock while the strip is retrieved by someone. Everyone gets out of the car. The dogs run aimlessly and Bobby chases after them towards the hills. Brenda watches from a distance and realizes they are completely isolated. Doug tries to get a signal on his cell phone, but has no success. He asks if the car can be fixed. Carter laughs and asks for his cell phone to call a tow truck, but Doug reinforces that there is no signal there. Questioning what they will do, Carter says the two will have to walk in search of help. They quickly argue, but Lynn pulls her husband aside to avoid confusion. Bobby returns with the dogs and someone continues to watch him from afar. The family organizes to spend the night. Carter grabs some weapons and hands one to his son. Ethel disagrees, but in light of the situation, she eventually agrees. Brenda is sunbathing and Doug watches the sister, who soon notices and goes to talk to Sister Lynn. Upon hearing someone calling, she enters the trailer. Inside, Lynn notices a reflection in the distance through the window. But when she approaches, Bobby suddenly appears, scaring the woman, who tries to look again, but doesn't see anything anymore, leaving her intrigued. Outside, Carter makes a plan with Doug and decides that each will take a different path. He says he will go to the gas station and asks Doug to return if he doesn't find anything within 10 kilometers. Bobby wants to accompany Doug, but his father insists he should take care of the women. Before they leave, the family makes a prayer, being watched from afar by someone. Later, while everyone chats outside, the dog starts barking nonstop. Brenda wonders why, and Ethel says he may be seeing a rattlesnake. Bobby jokes with his mother, saying that her obsession with snakes may be something else. Everyone laughs, and he apologizes for the rudeness. Brenda continues complaining about the trip and enters the trailer. The dog seizes the distraction to escape once again. Bobby runs after him and then Brenda goes after her brother. The dog leads the boy to a location far from the rest of the family. Bobby starts searching for the animal and soon hears its screams, becoming alert and looking up the mountain. Bobby keeps walking and calling for his dog. While walking, someone runs behind him and he soon realizes and turns around. The boy picks up a rock from the ground and begins to back away slowly. From the top of the mountain, someone dressed in red is watching him. Bobby finds a trail of blood and begins to cry. He then finds the corpse of his dog ripped in half with its entrails missing, which terrifies the boy, making him run. In an attempt to warn his family, he trips and falls into a hole, becoming unconscious. Someone approaches him and we soon discover that the person in red is a little girl, but she seems deformed. She caresses the boy and notices blood dripping. Looking up, she sees her brother eating the remains of the dog and laughs at seeing Bobby in that situation. Meanwhile, Doug aimlessly walks through the desert until something catches his attention, a crater with several abandoned vehicles. He approaches one of them and upon opening the door finds some objects and ends up taking a teddy bear. Then he heads to another car when suddenly a crow flies out from inside, startling him. Already at night, Carter finally reaches the gas station and tries to call for the owner, but finds no one. And we realize he has been followed there by someone inside the place. He comments that he had problems with the shortcut indicated by the owner and grabs a bottle of water. He tries to use the phone, but it's not working. So, he decides to enter the owner's house. There, he finds again that bag with the same items, but without any clues about the guy. Finding everything suspicious, Carter pulls out his gun and enters a room, rummaging through some things and finding a drawer. He notices some newspapers glued to the wall and shines a flashlight on them, discovering that the place was used for nuclear weapon testing. Besides having been a mining area, he also discovers that despite the radiation, some people managed to survive, but with severe after effects. Several images of deformed people are shown, and in one of the newspapers, it is written that disappearances began to occur in the region. Seeing that, Carter curses the gas station owner and decides to return to his family. He leaves the house with his weapon in hand, already aware of the dangers of the place, and tries to use the owner's car. When he starts the vehicle, the headlights illuminate the bathroom where he sees a pair of legs and hears someone calling for Jupiter. Carter approaches and opens the door, finding the gas station owner crying and drinking heavily with a gun beside him. The man blames himself and asks why they have to be so cruel and then shoots himself. Carter is shocked but doesn't have time to react as he hears noises. He turns around and starts shooting but sees nothing. In a panic, he runs back to the car. When he looks in the rearview mirror, he notices a grotesque man in the back seat, and as he tries to grab his gun, he is violently attacked and becomes defenseless. He is then taken in a cart to the mine entrance. For a brief moment, he manages to see the faces of his captors before passing out. Back at the camp, Brenda is still looking for her brother. She shouts his name and we see that the same little girl has been taking care of Bobby the whole time. When she hears Brenda's voice, she decides to move away. Soon, Bobby wakes up and returns to the trailer where his mother tends to his injuries. The boy, still shaken, asks if they used the radio to call for help. Lynn replies that they only heard a sigh. Their mother thinks it might have just been static, but Lynn argues that it's impossible as it clearly sounded like a person. While they talk, the dog starts barking and Bobby, already aware of the dangers, grabs the gun and tells his family to stay in the trailer. The boy exits the car and slowly sneaks up to the dog. When he reaches the spot, he finds the chain broken in half. He calls for his dog, but gets no response. When Doug arrives from behind and touches his shoulder, Bobby almost has a heart attack. Doug informs the group about the crater he found and tells them there is no highway or any exit. As everyone enters, Bobby expresses his concern about all of this and cries without anyone noticing. We see his dog wandering aimlessly through the hills. Inside the trailer, Bobby locks the door, while Doug and Lynn prefer to sleep in the car as it's too cramped in the trailer. The boy, extremely nervous, insists that they need to stay there. Doug refuses since the place is crowded but out of options. Bobby calls Doug to talk and warn him about the danger. Doug thinks he is worried about their father, so he tries to comfort him and says that if it's midnight and Carter hasn't returned, they will go look for him. Then the couple decides to sleep in the car. Later, while everyone rests, Bobby can't sleep and waits for midnight until he hears the dog barking. He goes outside calling for the dog and follows the barks. Meanwhile, in the trailer, one of the mutants is already there and Brenda doesn't hear anything because she is wearing headphones. Bobby reaches a rock where the sounds come from, hears laughter, and decides to return to the car. When Brenda wakes up, the mutant covers her mouth. Bobby runs to wake Doug and his sister. He tells them they are not alone there, but she insists that it's impossible for anyone to live in that place. Then he reveals he found the dead dog. The boy comments that he didn't tell before so as not to scare their mother, but now everyone is in danger. Doug decides to investigate and asks the two to stay in the car. They hear Brenda scream and run towards the trailer, but the mutant presses a button and ahead, Carter, who was tied to a tree, is burned alive. Nobody notices the deformed mutant in the trailer, and everyone rushes to try to help Carter. Another mutant appears and locks the trailer door. Doug desperately tries to put out the fire, but miserably fails, and the flames spread even more, forcing everyone to helplessly watch Carter's death. Inside the trailer, one of the mutants tries to assault Brenda while the other hears the cries of little Catherine. Only then, looking at the trailer, Lynn notices something strange. She runs there and comes face to face with one of the men holding her daughter and the other grabbing Brenda. Immediately, she hits the assailant with a pawn, knocking him down. She tries to hit him again, but he manages to grab her arm and aims the gun at the child, signaling for her to stay calm. He then tries to assault Lynn as well. Doug finally manages to put out the fire and Bobby, filled with rage, grabs his gun and decides to confront them. Ethel picks up a rock and returns to the trailer. Upon arrival, she faces that horrific scene. She tries to react, but the other mutant alerts his brother, who quickly turns and shoots her. Doug hears the gunshot and runs to check. In the trailer, when the mutant aims the gun to kill Brenda, her sister reacts and stabs his leg with a Phillips head screw, but ends up being brutally murdered with a shot to the head. They leave the trailer with little Catherine. Brenda is also taken away, but begs to be killed. The man tries to shoot, but the gun is out of ammo, so he decides to flee while Doug and Bobby run to help her. Bobby takes a few shots, but the criminals escape. Doug enters the trailer and finds Ethel shot and his wife dead. He realizes they took his daughter and begins to cry over the desperate situation. Meanwhile, one of the deformed figures watches from afar until he feels something moving behind him, but he doesn't pay much attention and continues to watch. Suddenly, the family dog appears and brutally kills the man in revenge. Inside the trailer, Ethel has survived but is delirious. Bobby asks Doug what they will do. Bobby wants to go after them, but Doug stops him and says they need a plan. Bobby calls him a coward and says they need to do something to rescue his niece. In the midst of the argument, they hear a noise and Doug turns off the trailer lights. Bobby, in a quick act, fires several times at the trailer door. Right after, Doug slowly goes to check what is outside. Soon, he discovers that Bobby managed to kill one of the men, and Doug picks up a radio in his hand. The family dog soon returns to them, and Doug asks over the radio why they are doing this and demands his daughter back. Over the radio, he hears her crying, which infuriates Doug, wanting revenge. The next morning, Doug uses the dog to sniff out the mutant's hideout. He walks for several hours until he finds the other entrance to the mine. Doug soon enters the mine with his dog. In the cave, he hears something rushing through the dark, putting the man on alert. He illuminates the darkness but sees nothing and continues walking. Deeper in the cave, he finds several graves with photos of various people. and the dog keeps sniffing until they reach an exit. And the little girl in red is lurking. From the hill, Doug finds a city and tries to warn Bobby over the radio, but receives no response as the brothers are setting traps. Doug decides to investigate the city, which looks like a ghost town. Walking a bit further, he hears the noise of a generator. In a nearby house, he hears his daughter's cries, and when he is about to rescue her, another mutant appears dragging a body. He quickly covers the dog's mouth to avoid drawing attention. One of the mutants hears something and decides to look, but finds nothing and leaves, while Doug, who was hiding in an old car, soon comes out to save his daughter and leaves the dog trapped in the car. He slowly opens the house door and enters. He quietly approaches where his daughter is and finds a woman watching TV, but he goes unnoticed and grabs Catherine. Trying to sneak out of the house, he is suddenly surprised by the woman who appears and knocks him out. Meanwhile, the brothers are still setting up more traps and leaving the bodies of their sister and mother in the car. Back to Doug. He wakes up, but is locked inside a freezer. It's all dark, so he decides to light a match and comes face to face with a pile of body parts. And the man is terrified. Doug is scared and starts kicking the freezer lid until he manages to break the door and get out. The dog, which was trapped in the car, finds a hole in the ground and escapes to help Doug. Doug grabs his bat and starts searching for his daughter and finds Carter's corpse on a table with some mannequins. Everywhere he goes, there are more and more dolls. In one of the rooms, he finds one of the deformed men from the radiation, and Doug asks where his daughter is, but the man responds that he doesn't know her whereabouts. The man says everything is their fault, that if they hadn't attacked that place with nuclear weapons, none of this would have happened. And the man starts laughing and says it's coffee time. When one of the mutants enters through the door with an axe and tries to attack Doug, he tries to run away through the house, but is soon grabbed by the leg and nearly killed. But suddenly, the family dog appears and bites the man's arm, making him let go of Doug, and he takes the chance to run. Doug hides in a room and uses a bathtub to barricade the door. The giant manages to get rid of the dog and Doug waits for the man to enter through the door, but he goes through the wall beside him and grabs Doug by the neck. The monster laughs at Doug's face and throws him away, trying to hit him with the axe. Doug dodges and uses his broken bat to pierce the giant in the belly, but this doesn't do much, making him even angrier. He punches Doug, who falls to the ground, dazed, and again attacks him, throwing him into the living room. The giant is furious, attacking everything with his axe, and even manages to cut off some of Doug's fingers. But when he is about to finish him off, Doug pulls out a Phillips screwdriver, which makes the man laugh. Doug, pretending, begs not to be killed, and the two monsters laugh at the situation. Doug takes advantage of the moment and drives the screwdriver into the giant's foot. Then he takes the United States flag that was pinned to Carter and stabs it into the enemy's neck, finishing him off right after with his own axe. Another deformed man quickly arrives at the scene to investigate all that noise, but he is surprised by Doug, who hits him in the leg and soon kills him with the axe. The handicapped man radios that they should kill Doug's daughter, but when he turns around, the family dog attacks him and kills him. Now armed, Doug enters another house in search of his daughter. We discovered that the little girl in red is with the child and that another mutant arrives to finish her off. Doug realizes that his daughter is not in that house and runs to another location. The man was about to kill the child when he realizes he has been tricked by the girl in red who swapped the baby for a pig. From the top of the hill, Doug hears his daughter's cries being taken away by the little girl in red and runs after them. Back to the brothers, the alarm they set goes off. Brenda panics, but Bobby takes the initiative and says they need to check. They discover it was just a bush that had brushed against the line. So, they decide to return to the car, but do not find their mother's body. Bobby asks Brenda to go to the trailer while he searches for the body. On the way, he hears noises and comes face to face with a giant eating the remains of his mother. The monster notices his presence and begins to chase him. The boy runs and shoots, trying to flee from the creature, while Brenda prepares a trap in the trailer to kill it. Bobby enters the trailer and asks Brenda to open the window, but the man grabs her. Bobby manages to free his sister and ties the enemy's hands to the trailer. The two escape through the window just as a gas tank is about to explode. When the mutant tries to enter, he activates the matches and causes a massive explosion. With that, the siblings celebrate their victory. Meanwhile, Doug continues the chase. He reaches the little girl in red who tries to hand over his daughter. But soon the other deformed man appears and begins a fight against Doug. The enemy corners him against the wall, and Doug takes advantage of his leg injury to break free for a brief moment. The man knocks him out while the little girl tries to escape. Even without strength, Doug rises and attacks the man from behind multiple times with the weapon, then shoots, saving the two. The girl hands Doug's daughter back to him, and while he holds her, the monster that seemed dead rises behind him. The little girl in red, realizing the situation, throws herself off the cliff along with the man, saving the two. Both die from the fall. The siblings find another enemy still alive, and Brenda finishes